Castlevania IV, Super Castlevania, or Super Castlevania IV is a fun side-scrolling platformer released in 1991 for the Super Nintendo, and came into some pretty high acclaim. In fact, it was actually named the 27th best In fact, it was named the 27th best Nintendo game ever by Nintendo Official Magazine, and the 9th best SNES game by Gardener's Monthly. I see that as pretty high praises considering Nintendo doesn't make Castlevania, Konami does. So, even Nintendo enjoys a little bit of the whip. Ooh, I can't say that. Super Castlevania is cinematic as fuck. What did I do wrong? It came after Castlevania 2 and 3 and it toted all new ideas, mechanics, and updated the look from the transition from NES to SNES. It also outdid its past entries in almost every way. I can fucking moonwalk! Castlevania 2 was like that newly divorced middle-aged dad who wanted to try out something new, so we got an open world map and a soul patch. All the while, his ex-wife Castlevania 3 has to work extra jobs, which makes her stressed all the time, and in turn, she takes it out on her kid who's just trying to do the best he can! Mama! Why don't you love me? Let's see how Super Castlevania plays. From the first instance, you're greeted to an old Universal-era horror movie introduction, written on a gravestone until lightning cracks that shit open in a cinematic taste test for the thrill you'll be heading into. And when you press that start button, write down your name, and step into Dracula's front yard for the first time, you know you're in for a ride. And that's just one of the reasons why I chose Super Castlevania IV as the fun for the Castlevania series. It's so cinematic, I mean, just look at Simon! I've never seen a strut so determined and so tenacious. Now that's the kind of strut only two types of people are capable of pulling off successfully: Mormons and stockbrokers. Now, I've never seen Simon commit any blood rights, so that means he's obviously the stockbroker.
My name is Simon Belfoot. In the year I turned 22, I slayed Dracula with 49 hearts to spare, which really pissed me off because I was 3 shy of the new high score.
You dare summon the wrath of death?
Yes, is this Death? This is the Death household?
Foolish mortal, I am Death, the Grim Reaper, Thanatos, Azrael,
and the ghost of Christmas future when the time of season is right.
Great, Death. I'm Simon Belfoot. How are you doing today? You mailed my company a few weeks back concerning penny stocks with huge upside potential with very little downside risk. Is that right?
Not that I remember.
Okay, great. Well, the reason for the call today is something just came across my desk, Death. It is perhaps the best thing I have seen in the last 6 months. If you have 60 seconds, I'd like to share the idea with you. You got a minute?
Well, I am kind of eternal, so shoot.
Name of the company is Transylvania International, and it is waiting for a patent approval on the next generation of torture equipment, which have huge military and civilian applications. Now, right now, Death, the stock trades over the counter at...
Simon, what are you doing here?
Please, Rick, don't interrupt me while I do my business.
Yeah, don't interrupt the guy.
Simon, the man who mailed us was named Dayton. There's no H.
Oh, shit. Dracula, sell me this pen.
No, leave. Who are you?
Honestly though, how could you not get behind someone with such a nice stride? It's extremely cinematic. In fact, you could say the entire game is cinematic. That's what the next part's on.
And that's all thanks to the wonderfully executed transition from NES to SNES. Castlevania IV dared to try out new things and perfectly utilized the effects chip inside the SNES. Lots of games used Mode 7 to try to have a cool little occurrence once in a while, but Castlevania IV took it one step further and added it to level design. Rooms could spin around someone, bosses could shrink with hits, and the entire castle could shift places without a moment's notice. This was a huge step in the atmosphere in gaming, and Super Castlevania was one of the games at the Super Nintendo's helm, steering the 16-bit vessel. The controlling of Simon and the castle's various mechanics, many of which new even without the use of effects, also aided in the success of this gem. The original Castlevania is a great example of a game that somewhat eases you into its controls, yet you still have the scary main hall filled with so many zombies it makes The Walking Dead look like goddamn Blue's Clues. Oh, I see a clue, he's a fucking asshole! But are you scared? Fuck no, guy, you're Simon Belmont, Bane of Beasts, Vanquisher of Vampires, Clipper of Coupons, leave that one out. You'll soon learn to jump and whip through sheer necessity. Castlevania works in a similar light and it's excellent. The beginning few levels are pretty easy if you've had any slices of the Castlevania cake. The Skeleton Knight is very easily defeated by any sub-weapons or your trusty whip, and Medusa gives you an appetizer to frequently place yet routine enemy placement. But this is all while you're out of the castle, and you want to get your feet wet, right? And I'm not talking about the water level. You have your time to get used to anything. This game trains you in its methods. Of course, new challenges never stop in this ride, and death will always be hanging nearby. Literally.
Ooh, is that where Dracula is?
Death, could you seriously go away? You're smothering
I'm
me.
sorry. I thought we were friends, man, okay? I'm sorry. You seemed like you wanted to hang out.
Oh, God, no. Why the hell would I want to hang out with someone like you?
Wow. Okay. I'm glad to know I'm not the asshole here, man. You are. I'm rubber, you're glue.
Heh, yeah, you tell yourself that.
I will tell myself that, asshole.
However, I find there's one problem with Super Castlevania: enemy placement. It's hot or cold, fantastic, or just fucking terrible. A lot of vertical portions of levels are implemented, and only a few times are the enemies within these stages complementary to your ascent. Even mechanically, most times you move upward, you deal mostly with stairs and not the grapple whip. It's a brand new goddamn feature, why the fuck wouldn't you use that? And also, due to the way Simon's whip works, you can now whip up in diagonal. On its own, I don't see that as a problem. It's a great mechanic when enemies complement it. When the enemies are placed well within the game, it's still not easy. The dining and dance hall segments of the game always come back to remind me of this. Get the fuck back here! There's a lot of difficulty here, and even when the enemies are completely based around the multi-directional whip, they're still hard to hit and take patience and skill. However, on vertical stages, the enemy placement remains true to the older games. Why is that bad? Because tons of the enemies are dispatchable from below, often completely erasing the threat that they would possibly pose. Maybe including enemies such as the harpies from the earlier games, which fly around the screen only with a minimally routine flight pattern, would aid these segments. Because these types of enemies are necessary to kill at an angle or straight up, and their location on a platform is irrelevant because they're not on platforms, and although their position has nothing to do with their surroundings, it has everything to do with your surroundings. Hell, even climbable vines, although overused, would have been a better idea for vertical segments than this. But when the enemy placement is good, it's almost perfect.
Constant changing challenges will always keep things interesting, and figuring out boss strategies is always a blast once you get it right finally. And to say it ineloquently, it's just a blast to play.
The fantastic melting of difficulty and enjoyment and general encouragement to keep trying is through hopeful music, which is a fantastic way to bridge the gap between the player and the avatar's internal monologue, which comes from music and the attitude the game sets. Some games specialize in despair, Majora's Mask often serving as a fantastic conversational lightning rod for despair and anxiety in video games, but Super Castlevania is actually very hopeful in many of its aspects. Simon has the ability, if timed well, to quickly dispatch waves of enemies. Sure, you can die from 5 or so hits, but the hordes of enemies that will fall before you is still a great number in comparison to the amount of times you've probably died. Combining this with the music really gives a positive vibe to an otherwise not so bright game. And when a game is as hard as the Castlevania series totes around, you can understand the need for confidence in such a dark and difficult landscape. And those reasons are why Super Castlevania is the most fun Castlevania to me. It's completely enjoyable. You start out slow but intrigued. What will happen next? Halfway through the game, you'll realize anything is possible, especially when the game is complemented by the revolutionary effects and mechanics included within.
Even when things get rough, you'll always have the wind at your back, and you'll always have a means to dispatch any enemy that stares you down. Now, a game that mixes difficulty and confidence like that, that's how you make a fun game, and Super Castlevania definitely fits the bill. And you know, with Super Castlevania, I really wouldn't have ended the year on a better note. I started with Simon's Quest, and now I'm ending with Super Castlevania, which is a lot of people's favorites, and as you know, I love Castlevania. I kind of look back and I'm like, I've been doing this for a year. Holy shit. It's pretty cool, and it's awesome to see people who've stayed the whole ride and people who have gotten on at any point in between. So thank you all for watching very much, and thank you all for watching very much. Thank you all for watching, and I hope every video gets better than the last. I hope at this point next year videos are 5 times better than they were now. So, thanks again, have a great day, and thanks for watching.